see Andrew Arad. I saw him at Chelsea Pier, and I said, somebody really doesn't like you. Who's that? And I
don't speak like that.
So I told him, I said, I really want Electro to be angry. And I actually got the character from something that happened to me when I was in LA as a young comedian. I had a little situation. There was this gangster dude that said, if you ever need some help, let me know. And I needed his help one day, and I took the help. But then I was indebted to him. So every club I went to, you got me, right? And I was like, yeah, I need to get in the club with you. I said, I can only get one in. I got 9 with me. And I was like, so it was just this constant thing going through the city to finally have to stand up and say, hey, I don't want to deal with you anymore. And then it turned on sort of this venom. So I took that character as Electro, that when Spider-Man says to Max, you know, we're partners, and he said it in passing, but I took it to heart. So when I turn into Electro, I don't want to let him off the hook. And I think that's what works. It makes the fight more epic. The fact that Electro is not talking a lot, he's just down to business, he wants to burn the city down, and he wants to get rid of Spider-Man. Well, what I wanted to do, what we want to do is we wanted to do 3 things as Max. We want to have 3 things happen. He needs to be betrayed by love. He needs to be betrayed by family. He needs to be betrayed by his work. So that when you see the setup, when you see him as Max, and is it okay if I say what happens to him when Max, they forget his birthday? No? No? Okay, well, what happens is that we came up with the fact that Max Dillon, it's his birthday. And even his mom doesn't remember his birthday. So you see how you feel? But that sets it up, the fact that he says, Mom, it's a very special day today. You got anything you want to say? She says, no, I don't want to say anything to you. So what that does is that sets it up that when Electro does turn into this guy, there's a little bit of him saying, I understand where it's coming from. So it wasn't disturbing, but it was great to see that journey, the fact that we gave it more than one side. You know, it's 3 to 4 dimensional, that when he turns into this person, you understand where he's coming from.
Okay. This question's for Marc, Matt, Avi. A little bit bummed that Shailene Woodley's not going to appear in this movie, as we heard, but excited about the idea of a longer-term plan. Does Shailene still have some part for Spider-Man 3, and would the scene have to be completely reworked, or a similar version of what was going to be?
You know, we miss Shailene, and I know you all understand that we all felt the story got just too big to have 2 girls. We always just complain, too many this, too many that, so it was the right thing to wait with it. The next movie will be in 3 years from now, more or less.
When I'm 45.
Yeah, we haven't crossed that bridge, so we just got to finish this movie first.
We love this girl, and time will tell.
Yes, Andrew. Coming back to this sequel, Lucas, the second time around, is it still hard to be a partner and easier to be Spider-Man, or has it gotten difficult being Spider-Man as well?
Oh, what a question. I like that question. I think what I discovered on this one is that it's just a mess. Peter's a mess, Spider-Man's a mess. But what's important to note is that when we meet Spider-Man at the beginning of this film, he's taking great pleasure in his power, and he's in full control of it. A little bit like Usain Bolt. His 25 minutes before he runs the 100 meters is his preparation is play, because he has the ability to do that. He accesses a very relaxed, free, playful state of mind, and so what I love about this Spider-Man now is that he has the confidence to not only be heroic, but it's not boring heroism. He's able to mess with people as he's being heroic. He's Bugs Bunny to a certain degree, and also what I discovered is that Peter is his little brother in a way. He's in the shadow. Spider-Man gets all the power, the attention, and he gets to live out this fantasy life. But when he gets home, Peter has the bangs and the bruises and the aches and the pains. When the adrenaline has left his body, he has to look in the mirror and he has to see a real boy in the mirror as opposed to this symbol that's greater than any human being. So that dynamic was really, really interesting. This inner dynamic between the older brother and the younger brother. And it's complicated, as it should be. Peter Parker has historically been complicated, and the more complicated, the better. The more guilt, the better. The more pain, the better for Peter, and the more joy and pleasure for Spider-Man, the better. So those two things were really fun to play.
For Andrew, what was the most important lesson that you learned coming out of the first movie as an actor into getting into this character, which is something that has helped you now in the second film?
Thank you for the question. Gosh, I learned so much from that first movie. I didn't really sleep on the first movie. I really took the responsibility to heart. I took Stan Lee's words to heart. And I still do. So I guess what I tried to do on this one is make sure that I could show up every day and give all of myself to it. Because there were certain days where I just on the first one where I felt like I couldn't get to the place I wanted to get to emotionally, or I couldn't get to the place I wanted to get to physically, or I just felt burnt out. And so on this one I really wanted to treat myself like an athlete and take rest when I could, and luckily in this one I could, because Alex Kurtzman and Bob Orsi, with the help of Mark, Matt, and the whole team, and Avi, had crafted a story that didn't solely rest upon Peter's shoulders, or Spider-Man's shoulders. Alex and Bob, they wrote incredibly well-crafted characters across the board, a real ensemble, and enough to attract talent like this. And Paul Giamatti, and it's a real testament to the writing, and I got to sleep a little bit more, thankfully.
Okay, this is a question for Andrew. This time around, we see you get to wear a more traditional Spider-Man costume. How did you like getting to wear the new costume, and which one do you like more?
The eyes are much bigger and better. You can see more. It's still as tight as it was before. I was able to urinate in this one easier. That was a very friendly adjustment from the costume designer Deb Scott. Aesthetically, I prefer it. To be honest, it's I dig it more. I just dig it more. I love the first one. Don't get me wrong. I actually really did. But it's mostly my ability to urinate, which I'm happy about. It was just very generous of them to set it up in that way.
Dane, this question is for you. What was your Spider-Man experience like, and what was it like working with talent?
Honestly, I didn't know what to expect going into it because I had never made a movie this big. But I definitely wasn't expecting to enjoy it as much as I did and walk away being as fulfilled as I was. I knew going into it that I was a big fan of Andrew and the first movie, and Andrew as an actor, and Jamie, obviously, and what Marc Webb had done with his first two movies. But I guess I thought because of the magnitude of the movie, something artistically would be compromised. But actually, it was a great luxury to have that much time, and for the sets to be that amazing. And then with the script being as great as it was, I walked away fully satisfied.
And Metallica?
Yeah, and Metallica was awesome too.
Mark, the second time around, what were the elements of the Spider-Man character and story and great conditions that you couldn't get to in the first one that you were really excited to be able to give some time the second time around?
Well, I think that there's a level of virtuosity in his physical capabilities that we really had fun playing around with. And there was a foundation of playfulness in this movie that there was hints of it in the first movie, but fun is crucial. And I think the first movie we had a lot of obligations. It was a little darker, and this one was from the outset has that level of play that I loved in Spider-Man growing up. And we did a lot of there's a lot of things that we did example, like just the physical comedy elements of it, which are very technical, very difficult. We had a guy that Andrew had suggested, a guy named Tolmach, who came in and consulted with us in creating these kind of really sort of elaborate, simple, but elegant sequences where, you know, Peter Parker or Spider-Man is having fun being Spider-Man. And I think physical comedy is something that's sort of a lost art. You know what I mean? And Andy Armstrong, Cal, and I, we all went back and looked at a lot of Buster Keaton movies, a lot of Charlie Chaplin, a lot of Harold Lloyd, and you look at these incredibly gifted artists and engineers back then, and how difficult the physical tasks of comedy like that was. It was something that we wanted to mess around with. There's a few scenes that we did where we had to do long takes. There was that one we did in the hallway that was like, I don't know how many takes we did, but it was just like incredibly demanding of Andrew. But it also intensely pleasurable as a filmmaker, and I think people will appreciate that. Whether they notice the level of detail or the work that we put into it, I don't know, but that was something that was really fun to play around with, and we didn't get to play around with in the first movie.
This question's for Jamie. You play a lot of iconic roles. You know, first you had Ray Charles that you knocked out of the park, then you had Django last year. How do you feel taking on this type of role, considering it's completely different, and what did you do to prepare for it?
Oh, well, you know, first of all, it was just, I think the nailing of Max is the main thing. I know people like Max. There was a guy named Richard who lived with his mom in his 40s, and if you know the history of Max, you know, his father left him. He was actually married at one point. We don't go into that, but he was actually married at one point. And the reason being is because he couldn't get going. And so for an actor, that's perfect for guys like us. There's a building block right there. If you know that this guy's lost his father, immediately there's something about his character that's different. If you know that his mother dotes over him all the time, and he's always seeking his mom's approval, which is a little bit like mine. I was adopted at 7 months. My mother, I knew though at the time. So I would always wait for her to come into town and you know, I'm playing quarterback and I'm this and I'm that. And so I was waiting for her to say, I like that. And she was a very tough woman. She now lives with me now. Everything's worked out. I don't know, makes everything with the press. But at that time, that was tough for me because I wanted her approval. So the same with Max. And if we could grab that for us as actors, and what was great about Marc is that once we set that platform of Max being from that, the Electro part was not easy, but it makes sense. But what was great is that Marc would not allow us to move until he actually got it right. He pushed, I don't know about what you guys experienced, but he pushed me. I don't know if he pushed me a little harder than everybody else, but he pushed, and I really appreciated that, so that when we look back on what we shot, that's the